Like, I'm using we very loosely. But, I feel like my little family of musicians that I work with most closely have just been, like, really working their asses off. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody's just pushing so hard right now.
So hi, everyone, and welcome to the Tulsa Tempo podcast. My name is Amy, and I am your hostess for today, as usual. Anyway, today we have a very special edition because we have one of the top heavy hitters in Tulsa on our show. I've been trying to get him on for a little over a year, and he's so busy, but finally we were able to get him today. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Combs.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So I have to say that you are definitely, as I've come to know your music, kind of know you a little bit, hang out where you're hanging out, watching you play. I see that you are very much a staple in the Tulsa scene. You play with everybody. Everybody plays with you. I mean, it's very kind of cool. And so who would you say are the top 10 up and coming here in Tulsa? If you have
that's
them.
A good
I don't
question.
mean to put you on a spot, but if you have them.
That's a good question. So I'm working with Amber Watson a lot right now, and her material is just some of my favorite. It's so great, and her singing delivery, so huge fan, and also grateful to be kind of working in her band with her. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Jolene Brown is putting out some amazing material, and that band also is super, super killing. Let's see. Lex. I think she's got some stuff coming out this year, but the stuff that she's put out in the last year or two has been some of my favorite. There's this kind of crew that is like, let's see who all, like Tyler Sexton, Manta Rays. Yes. And a lot of these folks are kind of working with Logan Brune, producer here in town. And all the stuff coming out of that is super fantastic. And it's really fun to see, because Tulsa's like live music and musicianship in general is very, very high. Mm-hmm. Yes. Everybody can play quite well, and so the live music thing has always been strong here, for as long as I've kind of been a part of or around, and so it's been fun to see the studio scene kind of take off in a few different places. Mm-hmm. Andrew Bear, we're working with, he's a fantastic pianist and is also producing a ton for a bunch of people.
So talented.
Yeah. I don't know if that's 10 or not. I haven't been counting, but that's kind of like, I love all the stuff those folks are doing. I feel like that's like a broad range. And then you just other, everything that Steph Simon has been doing, he's producing festivals, he's producing music. He's definitely not an up and coming artist in the same way, but continually an inspiration for me. Johnny Molex, like that band is completely, ripping and inspiring. They just
get better and better.
Yeah.
They really do.
So yeah, there's so much great stuff. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, but those are kind of at the forefront of like things that I am excited to see.
Yeah. And you sit in with all of them. Just a couple weeks ago, I saw you with Paul Benjamin over at the Colony for his anniversary thing, and I think I was telling you earlier how much I just love it when you come out and you sit in when they ask you to come up, and you sit, because I think I love how you stretch, and Paul just turns you loose. He's got no problem. He just sits there and smiles and plays. It just turns you loose. And that was really a good night. That was really, really good. And then I've seen you with, like I over at the Lowdown, with your trio thing going, and that was a very mellow vibe, but it was good. It was just so good. And then, even those little one-offs that you do, like over at Thelma's and stuff, like last night, you just assembled these heavy hitters in Tulsa, and it was amazing. So is that what you like to do, mostly? Or I guess that's a weird question. You like to play. Obviously, that's what you do for a living. I guess that are those little like one-off shows or kind of sitting in, like, what's your favorite thing to do? Or do you prefer like being in the studio and kind of, starting and, seeing a project through? Or is it just kind of all?
It's kind of all, I gotta say, like maybe musically a little gluttonous sometimes. But I kind of like, I want to do, I want to do all those things. And Tulsa, in a very unique place right now, is affording that luxury.
Yeah.
So like, I love, I've got a trio that is, for years has been, at the core of it has been Josh Raymer and Aaron Baylor. And so, I really love operating in that context, because the trio is kind of a challenging space to work in, and a very rewarding space. And it takes, a lot of intention and a lot of really deep listening to kind of pull that thing off. So I love doing that. And then, I also love putting together these kind of larger improv based nights where there's actual, moments of free music, or like freely improvised music. And like everybody, kind of gets to surprise themselves a little bit. Played with this band Jacob Fred Jazz Odyssey for 10 years, and my amount of time, or my time touring and stuff with them, we spent a ton of time in New Orleans, and a lot of time in New Orleans during Jazz Fest. And so I've been very grateful to be kind of exposed to New Orleans free and creative music scene. And that's really inspired a lot of the stuff that we've gotten to do, or that we've done here in Tulsa on that tip, which is kind of like putting together a group of people that, like many times have never met before, or like sometimes, if, and getting to do those moments where we're all so busy, we're all out working. And like some of the times, like last night, it's like the special guests are like people with decades long careers who each have their own avenue, and so everybody's pushing. And so any chance we can get to kind of like get together and have that almost communal moment. And I'm glad that people come and there's an audience, but some of those moments are like for us,
absolutely.
As the musicians to like,
because when you lock in, like you do, it's amazing. It's really something to see, if you have an appreciation for music, as a fan, I can't stop watching, or listening. It's just so good every time, and last night was no exception. It was just incredible.
Thank you.
And so really, we're here. We have to promote your in session, your live in session at the church. And so that was, again, something to see, y'all. Imagine Chris Combs in your headphones recording an album. It was really good. And so what was the process leading up to that? Because that's a pretty big deal, and they sell tickets for it, and did you feel that you were like put on the spot, or were you so, I don't want to say put on the spot, maybe like a little bit nervous because you did have an audience and you were recording live music?
Yeah.
Or are you so locked in with those guys that it was just kind of like you're just playing?
Yeah, a funny thing happens with musicians, I think, where like, there's definitely like always elements of nerves, and you're always kind of nervous. And there's like, especially if you're like working in a production element or like in a role of responsibility in terms of either organizing or, just show running, all those little things can be very stress inducing. But a funny thing happens with musicians where like something flips, and after a few years you become more comfortable on stage than you are off stage. So I didn't feel like exposed in a bad way or anything. I thought it was a really great way to have an intimate moment, with the band. And then, that kind of, I think, ties in nicely with some of the New Orleans influenced stuff that I was kind of talking about, because that's really where we were coming from with the in session, with our in session that we did. Like that's a one-off ensemble that will probably never be in the same room together. And that included, you know, flying in Dan Ostreicher, who's one of my favorite living saxophonists, and met him in New Orleans probably 14 years ago or some insane amount of time. We've been, you know, playing on and off a lot of times in very free and creative, like weird music circumstances in New Orleans. And then he's been on records of mine and we've recorded together, you know, in the past. So super grateful to get to bring him in. And, you know, so he's playing, you know, a variety of flutes, bass saxophone, like a huge assortment of wind instruments. And then, you know, next to him, we've got Hank Early, one of my absolute favorite pedal steelists, you know, who's in the Turnpike Troubadours and on the road all of the time playing like, you know, all over the world.
Yeah.
You know, and then
plus dates a year.
Yeah. And then Easy, the organist is amazing, you know, and the rest of us are more in town. But getting this kind of, you know, conglomeration of folks is, it's, you know, I feel just so grateful that they're even in the room, or, you know, together. So that was kind of the first, and really like the church with this thing, it kind of came to me with an idea. And they've done many more in sessions since then. kind of concept for me behind this was loosely based on some of the Leon stuff where he was working with Gap Band. And there's some like really old video of them in the actual church where they were kind of putting on these, you know, I think they were recording, but I think there might have been audiences in the room as well. But and they're almost like or some of them may have been produced for TV even, but there's this kind of like, you know, conglomeration of folks from all kinds of different like styles and backgrounds and that kind of thing.
And you had some special guests on this album too.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that all comes together. Yeah. So the core band is myself and, Josh Raymer, Aaron Baylor, who's kind of my core trio, and then Dan on sax, Hank on pedal steel, Easy on organ. And then in addition to that, we had T-Rush on vocals and first verse, who's one of my favorite rappers.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally all these, folks, live in Tulsa, but they're like my absolute actual favorites at their craft, like very, so T-Rush brought some songs in, Verse brought 2 songs in. And so the band learned those, kind of arranged them and played their songs live, So yeah, it's kind of a sampling in some ways, like across the record, there's 3 improvisations. There's 2 of my instrumental tunes. There's 2 songs each from T-Rush and Verse. And then there's a cover of Beware of Darkness,
nice.
George Harrison's song that Leon also covered. So yeah,
good song. Yeah.
So it kind of is like intentionally like a bit of like a sampling, of things, but I feel like it came together in such a way, and like the musicians were like so giving with their energy and time. It's like, things just kind of like fall together.
Isn't that, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I listened, you released 3 singles off of this so far, and I have to say that this Green Country Coastline, I love that, because that's the groove that I like to hear you in, that kind of flubby, kind of almost like industrial kind of stuff. Yeah, I like that, and I'm like, man, that when I heard that a couple weeks ago, I'm like, that's good. So I'm listening to this on headphones, right? And then all of a sudden you just turned it over and there's Hank Early. And I'm like, how can this be? Because here we're listening to this, thubby, like kind of, industrial, kind of get in there under your skin guitar. And then here comes Hank on the steel and he just kills it. That was so good. What did you think about that song? What did you think about the end result of that? Because I thought it's really amazing.
Yeah. And that's one of the improvisations.
You're kidding me. Oh my gosh.
That entire thing was made up on the spot. We had chosen a key, because we kind of put a loose program together, and that included an improv in the middle. So there's like an opening improv, a closing improv, which are both like very light and pretty, and like, and then the middle one is that. And we had decided on a key, and I think that's all we talked about. And so Dan,
and you came up with that.
Dan kicked off with that bass sax riff, and then everybody just kind of fell in behind him. And you can't hear it on the mix, but I had a microphone that I could talk to the band, and the audience couldn't hear me talk either. So I've got a mic kind of like as I'm playing, and so I can talk to the band in their headphones, and no one else can hear me. So it's kind of like what folks call like an MD mic, for music directing or whatever. So we just kind of like live arrange stuff, it'd be like, all right, take it, whoever, or like,
Because when you passed off to Hank, it was smooth.
And it's kind of it's like an 8.5 minute track or something, but it keeps, each person has so much personality, like it's a fun journey to take. That was a banger. I love it. Another one going to be in heavy rotation, on my. So, and then yesterday, you released 2. And these are not part of the in session.
They're not historicity. Historicity and Can't Stop. They're not part of it.
No,
I thought it was.
Nope.
Oh,
no. These are like vocal singles that I've kind of produced myself.
Okay. Well, they're great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love the artwork. Coming on this. So who did those photos?
Rachel Rector.
Wow.
She's amazing. Huge. Again, just a huge fan. All of the editing, like there's no post editing in any of it. She's doing all of it in camera. So like, and I'm going to totally butcher this, like explain it wrong, but she's like taking a picture and then like maybe rewinding, taking another, but those are like stacked images in camera. And so when you get the pictures back from develop, like when she got them developed, that's what they look like. Like she's not going into Photoshop and layering and doing all this stuff. She has like an sane eye and just like an incredible
that's
process.
that was something I noticed straight away. I'm like, wow, those were some really good, unique, beautiful,
truly beautiful
shots. Like really
like
beautiful.
she just killed it.
She grabbed it,
and her whole like her Instagram, like all of her work is on that level. You know, she's doing some great stuff. Which again, it's like being in Tulsa right now. Like these are people that I'm like not being like. You know, hope I'm not being annoying with this angle, but it's like I'm like huge fans of these actual artists. You know, it's like it's cool that they live in Tulsa, but separate from that, it's like this is some of the coolest stuff I've seen and heard.
That's how I felt about Tulsa. You know, real quick. You know, when I started coming out and started going out and listening to music and everything and trying to get this together, meeting Brandon and all that. There's just something about the vibe in Tulsa where, you like what they're doing, you know, but you also, you know, you love their music, you know, you're going to do whatever you can, you know, to support them, but they're also like really cool people. It's like and they're just so talented. You just want to soak all that up in any type of environment, you know, whether it be getting the taco or, you know, hanging outside or Guthrie Green, whatever, you know, just to be in, this sounds silly, but just to kind of be in the presence, you know, of people like that. Yeah. Because you hear all these little side conversations. I mean, I've learned more about amps, you know, than I ever probably will use, but I know I can jump in maybe a little bit, you know. So just is that what you're kind of thinking too? Like just kind of be in the presence, you know, of such talent. Yeah. You know, it's just
And I think, you know, kind of just to take on like what you're saying, like I do think we have a unique take on community here that like it is, you know, there's always challenges. We're constantly trying to figure things out. But there's like a very, very high level of musicianship across the city. And then within that, like for the most part, everyone's just hoping to see everybody kill it. You know?
And that's what there's, I don't see, I'm from Chicago, you know, I cut my teeth there and that's a rough scene, man. I mean, it was rough back then. I can only imagine, you know, but here I don't see that. You know, Jared Tyler told me he said that somebody told him one time that he said, Tulsa, he goes, anywhere else you go is kind of like a can opener, you know, trying to get in and just cranking it and cranking it and cranking it. Tulsa, it's not like that. You know, everybody wants to see everybody do good. Yeah.
I hope I hope folks share that perspective as well. You know, part of me is like, I've been here so long. I guess I'm curious what it would be like to move here and jump in these days. Like, is it hard? Is it easy? Like, I kind of
there's several. I mean, Jared Hard, you know, he just moved here from Nashville, you know, a couple years ago. Andrew Mingus, you know, he does the amp work over at Guitar House. Oh yeah. And you know, Andy, right? Yeah. You know, he just moved here. You know, he was he was living the van life for years, but he and wasn't sure if he was even going to stay in Tulsa, but you know, he was thinking that maybe he wanted to head back out again, but he loves it here. He's like, I can't imagine being anywhere else. This place is so great. And he's built his business, you know, he's playing music, and same with Jared. He just won that songwriting contest, you know, and they've only been here but he's friends with, I mean, everybody welcomes him. Yeah. You know? I mean, they're friends with everybody. Yeah. Yeah. And so
I should have mentioned Tom Pavere earlier. Yes. Cause it's like, he's like an amazingly accomplished musician. So it's like, I don't know if you can call him up and coming, but he's newer to town here. And he's doing just consistently killing it. Yes. And just put out a record. Sounds amazing. Matt Teagarden, I think recorded and mixed it, I think. Sounds fantastic. And so that's another, you know,
Jim Bachman. Yeah. That's another one. I knew him when we lived in Arizona. Wow. I went and saw him out in the East Valley one night. You know, I lived in Phoenix and he lives out in the Gilbert area. Okay. And when I saw that he was, I'm like, Jim Bachman, where do I know that name from? I'm like, oh my God, that guy's from Arizona. I remember him. You know? That's amazing. And he's just another one, you know, it's just kind of slid right in and just a cool guy and just doing what he does. And it's just beautiful. Yeah. You know, it really is. So when is the In Session coming out? I know it's sometime in August. Do you have a release date on
August 15th.
Okay. And is that under the Horton Records with Brian? Okay. So we have Horton. It says talk less, listen more, Horton Records, right? Yes. And so how is that? How you worked with Brian a lot. Yeah. You know, so how is it working with Horton?
It's
Records,
great. Yeah, it's great.
Paul's talked about that before, you know, where they're just real easy. He kind of just lets you do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
yes. Yeah, I feel, you know, they've just kind of got my back on things. And then, you know, he kind of, you know, played a large part in the vinyl package and everything coming together.
Talk about that.
And yeah,
because that's really cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Hank Hannewinkle at Convent Designs did the vinyl, the layout and everything, and it just looks insane.
And it's that amazing. Coke bottle green.
Yeah, it's colored vinyl. And it is, it's fairly limited. I'm not sure how many we are left, but I think pre-sales have been doing fairly well. So it's I'm grateful for Horton and that label's presence in town. You know, they put on a big showcase at the Canes every fall.
Yes.
And, really, I mean, they just have, really put their money where their mouth is, over and over for a long time for a lot of people, and have played like a very large part in the scene that we have today in town.
I agree.
And like Paul's a huge part of that push as well. I met Paul when I saw his band for the first time, like right after I turned 16. And it was like one of the first local bands I saw. And I just immediately was like blown away and then started taking lessons from him. And so now I share a teaching studio, again, through the grace of Paul. Like Paul lets me use his studio at Guitar House. Which is where I took from Paul. Like,
wow.
25 something years ago. Cool. Yeah. I feel like, Paul, that kind of generation, really laid the groundwork for where we are now. Like Paul was in a band called Rewake that was playing 100% only original music in like 2001, 2002. And that's what kind of, it played a huge part in forming my identity of being like, yeah, no, you just write songs. Like you don't like, there's no like, we'll be a cover band and then we'll get a bunch of gigs and make money. And then we'll slowly start working in our originals. Cause that's what a lot of folks have to do in larger cities, and, here it was just cool. I just thought it was so cool that his band, and that's kind of, he's been pushing that ever since, and so I think a lot of us that came up, with that, but also, seeing it from,
almost the fruition.
Yeah. Like I feel like, it's very cool to see how that stuff has grown. Cause I feel like when we talk about community and we talk about these things, like I think it stems from that, some of those folks, that
I would say him, Jesse Aycock. I mean, Jesse's another one. Like those two, when they play together, is beautiful because Jesse knows Paul's entire catalog. And they just get in cadence up there, and it's just like, goosebumps, man. And they have a T-shirt that says "Just Call Jesse." So because he's another one that plays with everybody, but he's just so supportive, of up and comers. He'll play with anybody.
Jesse's amazing. He's another one where like he can function as a not, I wouldn't even say sideman, but like as a piece of Paul's ensemble. Or, and then he's also like writing and producing some of the best original stuff. His solo material or whatever he puts out in his own name is some of my all-time favorite.
Yeah, same. He's really good. That and Jared Tyler, I mean, he's another one that just his voice, his vocal talent.
He can sing and write and produce. And it's crazy.
And he's so kind, so unassuming, so kind. And then he gets up there and he just blows your mind. It's like, was that the guy that I was hanging out with outside? Really? And then just because that voice it just carries and so much the story that he tells with his songs are just, it's really, you can see it. I mean, Fort Gibson Lake, everybody knows that, the lyrics to that song. Somebody asked me, where's Fort Gibson Lake? And I start singing the song. I'm like, that's the only way I know how to get there, man. So, but, he tells that story, but then his the way he plays is so good. It's just,
and his, I feel like he's been such a huge influence in the production scene here as well. Like, he produced Jesse's first record, Life's Ladder, and like Josh Ramer's playing drums on that. And we were all like, I mean, this was like, I feel like I was probably like 20, 21 or something. And I just I couldn't even believe that these guys made this. It was like, you got like, it was so good, you know? And, I remember like, I feel like Jared was probably the first like real producer, that I knew that was like really making serious work, like putting out like deep, real, and kind of ever since has been, I feel like he's kind of brought a lot of us up under him in some ways, just kind of chasing his, excellence. Yeah. Essentially.
Right. Yeah. Cause that's wonderful. I love that you guys have so much history, but you would know that, if you just kind of came and hung out one night, because you guys all act like, you're just buds. I have a picture from Paul's anniversary show, and it was you, Manta Ray guys, and Jared, and you all had your backs. And I'm like, this is a shot, and then Polly's up on stage. And I was like, that's, I don't know, it just became one of my favorite pictures because y'all just kind of hanging out, drinking your beer, watching the show. And I think that's so cool that you guys go out and support each other, when you're all in your own right. It's just awesome, but you still go out and support your friends. And that is really, really, really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a while. I mean, now, Tulsa's, I don't really know what the numbers are or whatever, but the population has grown quite a bit, there's just a lot more people here. There's a lot more people with more diverse musical taste than maybe there used to be. So the shows are all across the, I would say average out to be way better attended, and there's more people coming out, blah, blah, blah. But like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it felt like it was just all of the rest of the musicians at your shows, So like there was an era of like really everybody pulling the thing up with their own bootstraps or something, and there was also like just Colony and Sound Pony, in terms of like, Merc was more of like a rockabilly. It was a little bit more stylized. It was around, but Sound Pony and Colony were still accessible in terms of like, not playing a hyper stylized type of music. So those, for me, as my band started like really playing, it was like those spots. Yeah.
And now it's like you're everywhere. I mean, there's so many venues to play, not just in Tulsa, but on the outskirts now. You can go out to VA, out to the lake. Yeah. I mean, down to Disney or wherever y'all go in the summer, it's there's always, and Hunt Club, there's this everywhere. Yeah. It's amazing. You can go hear live music in Tulsa any night of the week. Yeah. You probably have the time of your life. Yeah. And hear something that you've never heard before.
And I would be fairly confident in being like, whatever it is going to be like quite good. Yeah. It may not be your style. It might be this or that, but it's like,
but you're definitely going to appreciate it.
The casual level is very high here.
Yeah. You're definitely going to appreciate what you're seeing, even if it's not your thing. It's like, cause I've been out to see like really heavy bands, and even some rappers, that's kind of not my thing, but I tell you what, they put on a really good show. That was some good stuff. And so I have, you will definitely come away with an appreciation, for what you see any night of the week here, I think. Yeah. It just doesn't miss, And when there's, we talk a lot about our calendars. I was talking with Michelle Bell, our calendars, and it's like we start out the month and it looks, okay, we have a light month. And next thing you know, it's like, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's here. And we have to like plan our evenings, like, okay, well, if this one starts at 6, we could probably stay there till their first set. Then we have to hustle because we got to get over and catch this guy. And then maybe we could catch the end of this show. And it's like, you can't do, you want to see so much, there's so, or you just want to go see everybody.
Right. Yeah, it is like, kind of turning into one like a there's elements of it that are like a real music town where like if music is your thing, if it's the thing that you love or that interests you or that you are about to dedicate your life to, it's like this isn't a bad place to be right now. Yeah.
So with your with this in-session music that's going to be coming out, are you going to be doing any touring or anything with that, or how are you going to?
No, we're going to do a release show at Colony. There's going to be a listening party at the church as well. Okay. But again, that's like, I think, the trio stuff will be out more. But this particular lineup and this particular record, it will probably never be played again.
Wow.
Yeah. Like we'll never have these actual, I won't say never, but it'll be very challenging to get the same exact group of people together with the same song set and all that. We've got a good piece of the band together for August 15th. But yeah, so that's what I think lends to the special nature of that thing, that it's a one-time thing, and that the record itself is a capture. The capture itself on the record is, that's just an evening. Like, we won't try to replicate it. We won't go on tour. It's just happened that one night.
It's one of those, Just another night in Tulsa. Just some friends hanging out.
And that's kind of what I dig about kind of how it came together. Like, I do think it's like not on purpose in any way, but looking back on it, it's like, this is a cool kind of representation of Tulsa and how the scene works. Like, the things about the scene that I really treasure are like, the collaborative elements, the everybody and everybody's band elements, the improvisational elements, the high musical just musicianship level. All those things are, I think, represented on the in session thing. So I think that's cool.
And so for it to be one off, so unique, we're never going to hear it again.
Yeah, just like last night and like 3 nights ago and probably tomorrow night,
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool. And then, I live like in between genres and, in a fun and probably frustrating way sometimes. But like certain elements of jazz remain very much alive in more of an esoteric way. Like, it's further down, meaning like I don't think I write jazz music in any way, and I wouldn't claim to be a jazz musician because I don't practice nearly enough. It's very, very difficult music. But there's elements of that is the most cornerstone, especially the New Orleans element, and some of that stuff is just my absolute
I hear it.
deepest programming.
It's groove heavy.
That is groove
that
heavy thing
music.
Even though it's not like out front,
That's
it's
foundation.
kind of part of everything that I think whether I can
And thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed the show as much as I did, because this was pretty good. So, and please, make sure August 15th is the release date for the In Session Studio with Chris Combs and his mighty, mighty band. So make sure that you pick that up. And pre-sale is pre-albums are almost sold out, right? But those are very cool.
They're definitely moving. We still got some available, but
Yeah, so get those if you can, because it's Coke bottle green and the design on there is really cool.
It looks amazing.
Artwork is beautiful.
Brought one.
Yeah. So we'll put it up for you for sure.
Heck
when Brandon produces this. So so you guys, definitely when you see Chris Combs on any bill on any of your social media that Chris is playing here tonight, you definitely need to go see, because it's not going to be just Chris, right? So you never know who he's going to bring. So it's definitely a fun evening, definitely something to do. Thank you all again for supporting our podcast and for supporting local Tulsa music and our musicians. And we'll see you next time.